Welcome to Movie Recapped. Today I will show you the coolest psychological, action movie from the incomparable Guy Ritchie, filmed in 2005. In an unidentified city, Cockney gangster and gambler Jake Green, Jason Statham, is released from prison after a 7-year stretch in solitary confinement for an unspecified crime. Because of this, Jake developed claustrophobia. He becomes incredibly anxious in tight spaces and despises riding in elevators. 2 years later, Jake and his brother Billy, Andrew Howard, travel to a casino owned by Dorothy Macha, Ray Liotta, a gang boss involved in illegal gambling all over the city. Macha is responsible for ordering Green to commit the crime that resulted in his prison sentence. Though Billy is reluctant, the brothers have arrived to collect the debt that Green believes the gangster owes them. Macha promptly calls them up to a private area of his casino where a high rollers game is taking place. Jake bets a fortune on a chip toss with one of the table's players, and loses. Manipulating Macha into a sense of false security, he makes the same bet with him, but this time, he wins. Humiliated, Macha orders his right-hand man, Paul, Terrence Maynard, to have Jake murdered. As Jake and his brothers leave the casino, a man, Vincent Pastore, hands Jake a card and tells him that he can help him. Jake's phobia forces him to take the stairs. In the stairwell, Jake looks at the card and collapses, falling down the stairs. The card is revealed to read "Take the elevator." Jake is rushed to the hospital. The doctors report that they don't know why he fainted, but inform him they will have the results in a few days. Later Jake arrives home, without Billy, where Macha's assassin sorter, Mark Strong, is waiting for him. On his doorstep there is another card, which reads "Pick this up." As Jake bends to retrieve the card, bullets fly over his back. As the shooting continues, the same mysterious individual, a lone shark named Zach, arrives and rescues Jake, who is the only person to survive the hit. Zach introduces Jake to his partner, Avi, Andre Benjamin. They offer him a deal: they will take all of his money and he will do what they say, no questions asked. In exchange, they will protect Jake from Macha. In the course of their proposal, they show Jake his medical file, which they have mysteriously obtained. It indicates that the blackout occurred due to a rare blood disease which will cause his death within 3 days. Jake suspects he is being conned and leaves. Later, at a visit to his doctor, he is given the same prognosis and said to have 3 days to live. Jake returns to Avi and Zach's pool hall with a satchel of money and agrees to their terms. The mysterious men reveal that his money will be used to fund their money-lending enterprise, then question Jake about his time in prison. Jake explains that he was given a choice to either spend 14 years in the general prison population or 7 years in solitary confinement, of which he chose the latter. During his stint in solitary confinement, Jake learns of a specific strategy, referred to as the formula, that is supposed to let its user win every game. The formula itself was discovered by 2 unnamed men who inhabited adjacent cells on either side of Jake's own. They are referred to as a chess expert and a con man. During the first 5 years of his 7-year sentence, the 3 men communicate their thoughts on confidence tricks and chess moves via messages hidden inside library books, such as the mathematics of quantum mechanics. The chess expert and the con man plan to leave their cells simultaneously, and promise to take Jake with them. But when they disappear from their cells, they leave Jake behind to serve the remaining 2 years of his sentence. When Jake is released, he finds that all of his possessions and money have been taken by the 2 men with whom he had shared everything. Disheartened, he uses the formula to go about winning at various casinos. Jake garnered a reputation that led many gambling houses to fear his freakishly good luck, and is blacklisted by many casinos. The formula applies to any game, and is often exemplified by Jake's apparent mastery of chess. Meanwhile, Macha brokers a cocaine deal with Lily Walker, Francesca Annis, the advisor of unseen crime kingpin Sam Gold, who is supposedly the ultimate figure that all other underworld members aspire to be. Walker warns Macha that Sam Gold is not someone to be delayed and emphasizes that he hates publicity. Jake accompanies Avi and Zach as they perform a heist of a vault full of the cocaine from Macha's casino. Desperate that he is now indebted to Gold, Macha sends Paul to appeal to his rival, Triad Kingpin Lord John, Tom Wu, to sell him replacement cocaine at a heavily inflated price. Lord John insultingly declines making a deal with his enemy. With Jake, Zach and Avi then rob John for millions of dollars, framing Macha for the theft. Furious, Lord John sends a hitwoman dressed as a waitress to kill Macha at his restaurant. Sorter shoots the assassin, but only wounds her. Then he travels outside and kills her getaway driver as he attempts to flee in a car. Inside, Macha struggles with the hitwoman, during which she shoots his finger off. In a rage, Macha empties his bodyguard's pistol into the assassin. In retaliation, Matcha has Sorter kill Lord John, then sends Paul and his henchmen to interrogate members of John's triad to find the location of the stolen cocaine. The Chinese gangsters deny any involvement, and implicate Jake even when Paul tortures them to death. Zach and Avi have Jake donate all the money he has given them so far to a child's charity in Matcha's name. Matcha takes the credit, believing it will improve his reputation. However, he is later visited by Walker, who claims that Gold is furious at Matcha's newfound publicity and his constant delaying of the deal. Matcha pleads for more time to settle business, but Walker simply leaves with a cryptic threat. 3 days after Jake found out about his terminal diagnoses, he awakes to a call from Avi, who tells him he is free of his disease. Jake returns to his physician, who reveals that the original diagnosis was incorrect. Jake suffers from a rare blood disease, but it is treatable and not terminal. The doctor apologizes profusely for the mistake. Meanwhile, Matcha, now believing Jake is the one conspiring against him, doubles down on the contract against him. His henchmen track him down to a house inhabited by Avi and Zach, but he evades them. In the chase, one of the hitmen falls on a shotgun and dies. The gangsters misinterpret this accident, and believe that Jake killed him. Jake meets Avi and Zach on a rooftop, where it is revealed that they were Jake's neighbors during his years of incarceration. They reveal that Sam Gold is an ultimately powerless cipher, whose power is granted only by those who invest in him. He represents ego and is the personification of greed. Avi attempts to get Jake to understand the nature of the ego and to challenge his own lifelong investment in it. The men explain to Jake that by stripping him of the physical embodiment of ego, his money, they have freed him from Gold's game. It is heavily implied that Avi and Zach are merely figments of Jake's imagination. Elsewhere, to settle a debt with the Matcha, Jake's brother Billy is betrayed by his bodyguard, who lets Sorter and Paul into Billy's home. Paul tortures Billy, threatens to kidnap Billy's daughter and set him on fire in order to find out where Jake is. The violent acts unsettle Sorter, and allow him to find his conscience. Against his better judgment, he rejects his ego by killing Paul and all his companions to rescue the girl. That night, an armed Jake breaks into the penthouse where Matcha is sleeping. Surprisingly, he kneels before the bed and asks a half-naked Matcha for forgiveness. Jake leaves in the elevator, which gets stuck at the 13th floor. Matcha retrieves his own handgun, and rushes down the stairs to meet Jake on the ground floor. While waiting in the elevator, Jake has a conversation in his mind in which he rejects his ego. By doing this, Jake steps off the proverbial chessboard by making a conscious effort to reverse everything his ego tells him to do. This is seen to be the truest and most fundamental application of the formula. As the doors open on Jake and he is about to leave the building, Matcha holds him at gunpoint, but a calm Jake refuses to fear him. He leaves Matcha a crying, pathetic mess, weeping in the foyer of his penthouse. Jake has rejected the ego, whereas Matcha has been seen to be consumed by it, resulting in his humiliation. Note: this is where the director's cut ends. In the theatrical release of the film, Jake finds out about the niece's kidnapping and decides to return the crime boss's money to save her. When he arrives, Matcha points a gun on Jake's niece, but Jake shows no fear. A humiliated Matcha remarks that Jake can't kill him if he is already dead. Then he puts the gun to his head and pulls the trigger as the screen cuts to black.